how do I get back over?
Has this podcast already started, by the way?
It started.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just we're just started going. So like, let's just.
Okay.
Sometimes it happens. I'm just like, we just start talking, and it doesn't need to be formal because I
that was the best podcast.
I do all the formal stuff later anyway, and but yeah, there's so many different things, and certainly from your origin story of, starting Whole Foods and kind of it's interesting that it took you to create and found something that almost should have been done anyway, right? It was like, why isn't there a higher quality standard in the grocery store market? So for you, what was that alignment of that aha and then your purpose and how that founded?
Well, stepping back just a little bit, I think the time hadn't been right for that to happen, sort of until Whole Foods and stores like Whole Foods came along. Because when I think about my parents' generation, they grew up in the Depression, World War II, and then there was a big boom after World War II, and that's when the suburbs really got cranking out, and highways and just the whole change that happened in America. And like for my parents, my mother, they were so drunk on technology. It was like making their lives so much better. Hey, wow, I mean, now we get food in a can. Now we have this frozen dinner. It's amazing. I don't have to cook. I can just pop it in. And they're not aware that that's anything wrong with that. To them, it's just more technology advancement.
Right.
It's like making our life simpler and better. It took a few decades for people to realize that, is this stuff really healthy for people? Does it really nourish people? And, of course, you're being reassured by industries that, yes, this Swanson frozen dinner is just as good as if you've done it at home.
Right.
And so that generation was not skeptical about it because they were so bedazzled by progress, in a sense. It took, in some ways, my generation, the baby boomer generation, that began to question whether everything that modernity was producing was good. It's not a wholesale rejection of modernity, but it was realizing that, there are trade-offs when you go in this direction. Some things are being given up. And I know that for me, the first time I sort of began to awake, I went into this, I'm 20 years old, I'm a student at the University of Texas, and I go into some little tiny hole-in-the-wall co-op called Avenue. It was Avenue Co-op. I remember the name of it. It was really tiny, but it had food in bulk bins. Right. So there was a whole big barrel of brown rice and beans and whole grains, and it was like, and I thought, this is like real food.
Right.
And so I was just, my heart leapt, and I got so excited about that. It's like, and I wanted to learn how to cook, and I moved into this vegetarian commune, really, and it was a cooperative, and I wasn't a vegetarian when I did that, but honestly, I just thought I'd meet really interesting people, and I was interested in all things counterculture. I just thought it'd be cool, I learned how to cook. I got more into natural foods, organic foods. Organic was a really revolutionary idea. It's like, producing food without these pesticides, without these artificial fertilizers. Well, don't we need to do that? That's how we increase productivity. And so that was like, that in of itself was like a wake-up call for me. And then I went to work for the small natural food store and called Good Foods, became the assistant manager. And I remember coming back home to the co-op I was living in and talking to my girlfriend, Renee, and I said, what do you think we opened up our own little natural food store? She just thought it would be the coolest thing to do. I'm 23, she's 19, and it's like, let's do it. So we did. And so then that was the call on my heart. That was my hero's journey, was to follow this direction wherever it took me. And it took me into Safer Way first, which was a vegetarian store. It didn't sell coffee or alcohol or sugar. It was very, very, very pure. And it was on the street that didn't have any traffic on it. It was in this old Victorian house. It didn't do any business. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing. Renee and I were so inexperienced. But then I began to learn business. I started reading books, and I realized we needed to relocate this store. So long story short, we did relocate it a couple of years later to a bigger store right on a main road, changed the name because we merged with another small natural food store. We changed the name to Whole Foods Market, and that just took off. Wow. It was just, really within 6 months, it was the highest volume natural food store in the United States. It was a huge success.
And within 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months. We had hit it's like drilling for oil. I guess I'm from Texas, drilling from oil, and we hit a gusher, and then we had a terrible flood that wiped us out 9 months after we opened, which spurred us on to get reopened, but also to open a second location, not in a 100-year flood zone. And so that started a little slow, but it grew too, and then that led to a third store, and then a fourth store, and then we started raising venture capital money. And I always tell people that it took us 14 years to get to 12 stores. Then we did our initial public offering, raised capital, now had a currency that we could buy other companies with as well. And then when I retired, now almost 3 years ago, after 44 years of leading the company, we were up to 540 stores, $22 billion in sales, over 100,000 team members. And it was just grand adventure. It's in my book, The Whole Story. And it's been a really fun ride. And now I've retired. After I signed a contract with Amazon for 5 years, after the deal, stayed for 5 years, left almost the day that contract ended, and started up Love Life, co-founded Love Life with some of my Whole Foods companions that were with me.
And I want to dive into that, but so that because what I gather from you, values, morals, ethics, lining that, putting energy into that, and then when you're expanding and expanding and expanding, and capital and other pressures and all of those things, finding that line of how do you, because that's the age-old thing that also people don't trust, right? As things expand and as they raise money and big business takes over, that inevitably quality goes down, corners are cut. How do you stay, and how have you stayed true to that? And then my next question is, how was that kind of toggle, or just that situation between deciding whether or not to sell to Amazon?
There's always, that's a lot to unpack, but let's work on it.
Yeah.
The first thing, I already told the story about how Saferway was very pure.
Yeah.
Now, Whole Foods was still very pure, but we sold meat, we sold coffee, we sold beer and wine.
Sure.
And part of it is you have to meet the market where you find it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that you have to, I don't know if juggle's the right metaphor for it, but Darin, at the same time that you're trying to fulfill your purpose, you're also in dialogue with your customers.
Right.
And if you don't create value for your customers, if you're not going to sell what they want to buy, somebody else is going to.
Right. So
you have to kind of meet the market where you find it. At the same time, Whole Foods was an aspirational brand. It didn't appeal to everyone, and we had to deal with the whole paycheck metaphor for a long time. I think Amazon helped Whole Foods to break that. We had to deal with the skepticism when you have a new idea, and it's like, I remember a venture capitalist turning us down and then trying to tell me why he didn't want to invest, which later on I thought it's like a girl turning you down on a date and then telling you why she didn't want to go out with you. It's like, you don't really want to know. Right. But he just said, you guys have a nice little business here, but you're just a bunch of hippies selling food to other hippies. And I just don't think that's going to be a very big business. And he was wrong because there was a sea change going on. He was a different generation. He couldn't see it. Oftentimes, an older generation cannot see what's obvious to people that are younger. That's still true today. I know my generation's missing things that younger people are picking up on, to be sure. And so that's how the world continues to evolve. So there is this dialogue. I prefer that to the juggling act of fulfilling your purpose while at the same time meeting the market.
Mm-hmm.
It's like another saying I like, which I think is appropriate here, is the perfect's the enemy of the good.
Mm.
If you really want to do good in the world, if you strive for perfection and you're intolerant for exceptions, you'll stay pure, but you'll accomplish a lot less.
Yeah. You'll have 2 customers rather than 2 million.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. So part of the job is to educate your customers, to try to lift their aspirations to a higher level. Trying to do that again with my new business, Love Life, because we have a very idealistic vision, a different way of thinking about medical care. We can get into that in a little bit. But I think and then the Amazon sale, that's a little more complicated. People do not understand. We did not want to sell to Amazon. We wanted to be independent, stay independent. But we were being aggressively attacked by shareholder activists. And it's a longer story, but it's a more complex, longer story about why we got into that situation. I do detail it in the book. But the bottom line was that our stock price had dropped from its all-time highs, and the shareholder activists were trying to take over the company. They got just about a 9% share. I met with them. They didn't want to work with us. They just said, look, Mackie, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take over your board of directors. After that, next thing we're going to do is fire you, get you out of the way. And then we're going to fire any of your executives that don't do exactly what we tell them to do.
Wow.
And because what we're going to do is we're going to sell this company to the highest bidder. And there's not an effing thing you can do about it. And walked out of the room. So what Whole Foods needed to do, we needed to lower our prices. And the market had caught up to us in a lot of ways, and the mistake we made was we should have been investing in lower prices as we went along. We weren't doing that because we felt like we were differentiated enough. But then it's like the supermarket industry woke up to Whole Foods Market after ignoring us for decades and began to copy our products. Some of our products began to copy our marketing. They began to make their stores more beautiful. And you might say the moat that existed between us and conventional supermarkets began to disappear. And we needed a little time to change that. But while the shareholder activists were pressuring us, we couldn't do it. Because if you're selling something for $1 and then you say, well, we're going to drop it to 90 cents, in the short term, your sales just dropped 10%. Your same-store sales just dropped 10%. Your profits probably dropped 30%. And the shareholder activists are going to be all over that, saying, we got to get rid of these guys. Look, they're wrecking the company. So Amazon ended up being our best solution. And they were a win-win-win solution. It was good for our customers. We got lower prices. Team members got higher pay. Our suppliers did not get cut off. In fact, Amazon picked a lot of them up for their .com business. Our investors made a nice return on that, and Amazon buying it. And even our nonprofits, our foundations were bigger and better because Amazon helped support those financially. So there were some cultural problems, which ultimately led me to quit. Amazon does things a little bit differently. But if I had to do it all over again, I'll always wonder what would have happened if we'd stayed and fought. Because maybe we could have beat those guys. But at the time, I judged we probably would lose. And that this was going to be the best alternative for us. We did not want to be sold to, say, to Albertsons or Kroger. We did not want to be owned by one of those big supermarket chains for a variety of reasons. Quality standards, labor unions, just the autonomy to continue to fulfill our purpose. And Amazon told us we could do all of that. So, in fact, they would bring technology and additional capital to us. So there were lots of pluses, and there were some minuses.
Well, I'm glad you set that context, and I'm sure there's an infinite amount of details there. But
that was a fast version, so I could,
I appreciate that, and I know other very, very good friends, very powerful entrepreneur people that have worked in like alternative to plastics and have scaled and had hostile takeovers and weird stuff, and it was in the heart and soul of this one guy in particular. I won't out him, but it's public information, but he had it taken away from his board, and then he pivoted, and now he's going to be infinitely more successful. creating alternatives with algae with PFAS.
Cool.
Right? So it's scaling and it's already out in the marketplace. So I love the path. The path is gnarly, as you can describe, when the profits become the god of those other people.
Right.
And the value that you brought and built the foundation on, they don't give a shit. And
Well, I mean, as I say, the perfect is the enemy of the good. Whole Foods has done a lot of good, and it changed our world for the better in many ways. I mean, people do not know how bad, people are too young. They don't know how bad supermarkets were before Whole Foods came along.
Yeah.
And our success, and they were all copying Walmart and making these big, ugly warehouse stores and cutting back on quality. And then Whole Foods went this, different direction. And ultimately they decided we should be more like Whole Foods and less like Walmart.
Yeah.
And that changed the supermarket business.
So this whole thing of, you're one of the biggest juggernauts around this idea of conscious capitalism. I use the term myself.
Great.
Because I love that idea. I love a free market, and I love the grit of our American spirit of building and creating and helping the world and I love that, and I've surrounded myself with people that are also hell-bent on doing something different. So I really, number one, I appreciate you doing something, putting a flag in the sand a long time ago. And so from your perspective, let's just define, because we can say conscious capitalism.
What does it mean?
What does it mean to you?
Yeah, well, I did co-author a book called Conscious Capitalism.
Yes.
I co-founded a nonprofit called Conscious Capitalism. And we're actually doing a second edition of the book. My co-author, Raj Sasodi, and I are working on that this summer. It should come out a year from now. Amazing. And it really, we say there are 4 pillars to conscious capitalism. And the first one is a business, every business has the potential to have a higher purpose than strictly making money.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with making money. This is not an either or.
Right.
It's an and. For example, a good metaphor that the founder of stakeholder theory, Ed Freeman, likes to use, and I borrowed it from him, which is that my body has to produce red blood cells, or I'll die. If I stop producing red blood cells, I'm dead. That doesn't mean my purpose is to produce red blood cells. Well, similarly, business must make money. It has to be profitable or it will die.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that's why it exists. That's not its purpose. Ultimately, the purpose of any business ultimately comes back to creating value for customers, value for other people, who then voluntarily exchange with the business. They don't have to trade with the business. They do so because they think it's in their best interest. Profit is a result of creating value for other people, and it's earned through creating value and then through voluntary exchange. What oftentimes happens in business is, because profits are hard to make in a competitive world, is that people begin to solely focus on the profits, and they lose sight of, like, why are we doing this in the first place?
Right.
And so conscious capitalism is staying conscious of your purpose and building your business around that purpose. Whole Foods' higher purpose is to nourish people and the planet. Ultimately, Love Life is trying to change the way we think about healthcare and wellness. And so purpose is first. And then secondly, stakeholders. So we know stockholders people that might own stock in a business. Stakeholders are people that have a stake in the business. And I think there's different kinds of stakeholders, but the ones that are most important are the ones that are voluntarily trading with the business for mutual gain. For example, I've already explained how customers are trading with the business. But so no customer has to shop at Whole Foods. Whole Foods has like a 2 to 3% market share. Most people don't shop at Whole Foods. There's plenty of competitive places in the marketplace. And so Whole Foods has this nice little niche. Then secondly, you have the owners of the business or a stakeholder. And those are the 2 most important stakeholders, because a business can have customers and owners and no other stakeholders, theoretically. If it's like let's say you are you're doing a tax service, and that's what you do, and you don't employ anybody. You just help people fill out taxes. You're the owner. You're trading with customers, two major stakeholders. But then as your business grows, oftentimes you'll add on employees. They have a stakeholder in the business. They don't have to work for you. They have other alternatives in the marketplace. If you don't treat them well, you don't pay them well, they'll just get a job someplace else. Right. They're not slaves. Right. So they trade with you for their time and energy and creativity for money, stock, benefits, things like that. So then suppliers, almost every business needs suppliers, whether it be, if you're in the grocery business, you need farmers and ranchers and food manufacturers. You can't go do all that yourself. So you have numerous suppliers, but also you need electricity, and you need a building that you're going to do. You need real estate. Or you need computers, and so all of that is suppliers that we're all trading with all the suppliers. So there's incredible interactivity there, and then you're also in a community. You don't do this in isolation. In that community, people, you have neighbors, you have people you might be in a city that's going to charge you property taxes, provide utilities for you. So you're in these communities. So all of those are the most major stakeholders. And then they all matter. They're not all equally important, but they're all matter. And then the big thing that we saw with conscious capitalism, Darin, is that they're all interdependent. They're all connected together. That's the amazing thing about capitalism, is that all of these stakeholders are trading with you, trading with others, doing it for voluntary and mutual gain. And you have to innovate if you're going to stay ahead of your competitors, because they'll copy what you're doing. And then you have this upward spiral of progress. And it's transformed the world, not perfectly, not for the better, always, but again, the perfect's the enemy of the good. And overall, it's been for the good. And so that's why we like the gritty part of capitalism. But when you do it more consciously, you're doing it for purpose, for stakeholders. And then the third pillar is leadership. What kind of leader are you? The right kind of leader, the conscious leader, is one who is trying to fulfill the purpose of the business, not just line his or her own pockets, and cares about all the stakeholders and is trying to create value for them. And fourth, culture. Because you're going to work in a place, culture matters. Are people going to be nourished by working in your organization, or is it a toxic environment? So a conscious culture is one that's like, I always say CEOs don't pay enough attention to the culture. They take it for granted, or they delegate it to their HR department. I always took culture as like one of my most important jobs as a CEO, is to create and maintain and evolve a healthy culture for people to flourish. They can be happy. And you know the two things that are most important in a culture? The two things human beings most want is purpose and love. If you create those in your culture, not only is your business going to be most likely hugely successful, but your turnover rates are going to be low. People are going to give their best energy, their highest level of creativity, their most passion, because we are human beings and we crave to have meaningful work and to be cared about.
How would that show up, like, in your day-to-day life? Like, how would you nurture? Because people want to be seen, they want to be heard.
It's a great question.
How would that show up for you?
So if you're the CEO or the founder, but any leader, I think this is true for, but I was always very conscious that I was embodying the culture, because you can talk all you want to. People pay attention to who you really are. How do you show up? Because otherwise they just think you're a bullshitter or you're a hypocrite. So I felt this responsibility to kind of be the representative of the culture and to embody the purpose myself and to live every day by example the importance of the stakeholders and trying to create a culture that allows people to flourish. And I mean, that's being a good human being. It's meaning being positive. It means learning the basics of praise publicly, reprimand in private. Don't ever dress down people in public. It means being discerning. And sometimes you have to let people go for the good of the whole, but you can do that in kind ways, and you can do that where it's a win-win-win type of exit. It's about the great thing about business in a way is that it helps you grow as a human being if you're in a leadership role.
Yeah.
The business, a question I used to I ask myself all the time in Whole Foods, and now I ask it at Love Life. What does the business most need me to do now and be now? Because it changes over time. As your business grows, some of the things that you're good at, you still may be good at them, but maybe that's not what the business needs you to do anymore. In the early days of Whole Foods, when we were starting to grow, one of the most important things I could do was get involved in real estate, because the locations really make a difference. And if you mess one up, could be the end of the story, because it'll lose money and could drag the whole thing down.
Right.
So we were very careful about real estate, and I put a lot of attention into it. But then eventually we got a good team in the real estate team, and I didn't need to focus there anymore. Still, there were no stores approved that our executive team did not ultimately approve. And so I stayed not working full time on that, but it was always, we got together and every couple of months to go over potential locations and approve them. The leadership did. So it's how you show up in the world, who you are.
Yeah.
That is the most important thing a leader can do, is be the kind of leader that you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
Because that's what we need.
Well, and it's also powerful because I believe in, like, you know, that ability to ask a question, who do I need to be right now, and what does the store require? And that is a very active, in the present, kind of open situation that I think people can, whatever walks of their life, they can
Exactly.
get value from.
Yes.
You know, so this world of systems I think about a lot. I think about food systems, I think about environmental systems, I think about health, I think about healthcare systems.
Because it's all systems all the way down.
Yeah, and our ecosystem, and we, I'm involved in some clean energy stuff, and certainly with traveling in the early days of Shakeology all over the world, I would see the world as it was more clearly laid out in the challenges. And it changed my life.
Yeah.
And so I really look at, our systems feeding us, pun intended, or are they hurting us? And so many, especially around the healthcare system. And when I actually really look at this and just take it on, I really can't still believe that our healthcare system is the way it is. Just treating sickness and not taking in this holism approach, which is why what you're doing with Love Life, I think, is absolutely 100% needed, required. And so for you, because I scratch my head at this stuff, I want my mom in Minnesota to have better access to other views of health and not poked and prodded and pilled up. But it takes me to kind of
Pilled up. I like that one. I haven't heard that one before. I'm gonna borrow that one.
Yeah. So it frustrates me. I'm a small town kid from Minnesota. I like working hard, but I also, now knowing what I know, my family in Minnesota doesn't get access to certain things, and it frustrates the hell out of me. So for you, this next vantage point, this next kind of aha, what for you, and why is this now your passion to change this system?
You know, Darin, you said so many interesting things there. So first of all, trying to understand the systems, then if you study history, if you study the way things change over time, things make more sense. Yeah. Our medical system's this way because that was the right medical system at one time. Because remember, this is a very interesting fact. Until we began to get better sanitation, until we got antibiotics, and vaccinations started to come in late in the 19th century. The average lifespan of humanity was stuck around 30.
Right.
So it's only been the last 150 years. This is 150 years we've seen the lifespan rocket up. Right. And part of that is due to our medical system. and the sanitation, vaccinations, and antibiotics were sea changes for extending lifespan. So if you were a Civil War soldier and you got shot, they're probably going to have to cut your arm off because they had no way to stop the gangrene from just killing you.
You're going to get infected and you're done.
Exactly. And so medical care first was based on science, and that's how they began to get away from just sort of the snake oil salesman was, science. And then, but of course, science is continuing to evolve. But for most of the things that were killing people for most of our lifetime, most of our history was not poor nutrition. We were dying not from chronic diseases. We weren't having heart attacks. We weren't getting cancer.
Right. We're living long enough.
We're living long enough to have those things. We were dying from infectious diseases. Right. So science, initially, medicine had to deal with things like tuberculosis, cholera, influenza, the big killers, the plague, the things that were... They didn't even have... Louis Pasteur came along and showed, if you pasteurize this stuff,
right.
and we just didn't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
And so science began to break us out, and we started to make progress. But what you've identified correctly is, well, that's not good enough any longer.
Right.
Science itself is not, in the way medicine is captured by the pharmaceutical industry. And so there's a pill for every type of thing, but it's no longer curing those diseases. It's mostly managing symptoms. Yeah. So now your dissatisfaction, this is how we make progress in the world. You're dissatisfied, I'm dissatisfied. Literally millions of people are dissatisfied. Yeah. That creates a market opportunity for entrepreneurs to come in and create new things. The government and that stuff always follows later.
Totally.
And so right now, I am seeing, now that I've gotten into this field, one of the things that's blown my mind is how fast it's evolving. Not only is AI going to completely transform health, transform everything, but I mean, no doctor is going to make a move without checking in with AI. And you have businesses like Function Health now, for example, that are using AI. They're not sending you to doctors necessarily. You're getting comprehensive blood examination, and then the AI is making recommendations for how you should change your habits and what else you might want to do. So I think now, and also the type of technologies that I'm seeing, the biohacking that's occurring, I think Americans are really susceptible to biohacking because we always want a shortcut.
Sure.
Yeah, if we don't really want to change our diets and lifestyles.
Right.
We just want a magic pill or quick fix.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, that being said, there's still amazing things that are happening that kind of blow my mind. And it seems like every week I hear something about some new cool technology, some new scanning technology.
For sure.
So I think we're on the cusp of literal health transformation. I'm just thrilled myself to be part of it because it was really when I looked down deep into my soul on my own journey in life, my own hero's journey, I see that I thought it was just selling natural and organic foods, but I realized, no, I wanted people to be healthier.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be healthier myself. And food was obvious to me that we were on the wrong track. So food was the path that I took. But it turned out that after Whole Foods, I didn't just want to live on a beach and live the good life. I still had a quest for purpose to make a difference. So that shifted now into helping people to become Love Life's mission is to help people be the healthiest version of themselves. Darin, we're all on a health journey. Yeah. I could be healthier, you could be healthier. I will give you a trivial example because while I'm here in town, I'm not surprisingly a member of Love Life here. I live in Austin, but I saw my doctor here and I'd done a bunch of blood tests. About a year ago, I started taking creatine as a recovery. Sure. But then, being a good American, I went from 5 milligrams to 10 milligrams.
More is better.
Now to fit, more is better. Exactly. And so one of my blood tests showed one of my kidney indicators was out of whack. And when we go back and compare it, as the doctor was going over my previous blood test, and he said, so when did you start taking the creatine? And be honest with me, how much are you taking now? So she said, John, you're taking too much creatine. What we need to do is we'll dial you back to 5 milligrams, see, and take a blood test in 6 months and see if this resolves.
5 grams or 5,
I'm sorry, 5 grams.
Yeah, 5
grams. 5 grams, and then
you're taking the tablespoon.
Yes, exactly. And so let's see if this clears up. But my point is, we now have science is working with me to determine, it's like, okay, this may be the cause of that. And if it is, then I'll stay at 5 grams. But what if I go to 5 grams and it gets better but it doesn't resolve itself? Maybe I need to go off of it completely. My point is, we now have the science, we have the measuring devices like Apple Watches and Oura Rings that can track our sleep, track our exercise. When we have AI integrated into that, and I fully believe in 10 years or less, we're going to be having some kind of wearable AI that's going to be monitoring our overall. John, your blood pressure just went up 10 points. What's going on? Take some deep breaths here, buddy.
Right. Yeah, talking to you like
exactly.
I mean, and because that's what's been missing too. It's been this kind of catch-all kind of idea, and really we're all bio individuals. We're literally millions and millions of synapses and cellular changes.
Trillions
happening in every nanosecond, right? So how can we possibly think that supplement is going to be at that dose is going to be perfect for me? You can't. And so I too, I was talking to some friends who are doing voice recognition of diagnostics. So beyond the hearable voice, they're getting pretty good at diagnosing what's going on inside the body. And
from just hearing the voice?
Just hearing the voice.
Wow.
You're picking up on subtle changes, and they go as deep as you want. And again,
cool.
Yeah, so hormones, vitamins and minerals, and then recommendations. Another
thing to add to Love Life.
Exactly.
To our protocols.
Yeah. So I can put you in touch with with those, because that, for me, we're not far off. You have Love Life, and I'm going a little bit different angle on Super Life. I want my driving force, even when I formulated Shakeology. And this actually is a little personal. This goes back to, I was born 1970, and I was 3.5 pounds. I was 2 months early.
Wow.
And it was a 50-50.
Now look at you, dude.
Yeah. Eating plants, still going. But the imprint, the messaging that I got right away was, I may not live. This is a fragile thing. And
you mean you got that on some subconscious level?
Deep, yeah. And I track it, throughout my life. There was this thing, and there were things happening. My body took a while to catch up.
Is that still a psychological block in you, do you think?
I think, it became a superpower, for sure, because when I would hit adversity in life, I would go, and I'd go around it and figure it out. And I think that trauma, because ultimately it's trauma, it's fear.
Sure.
And that is being released as the more I don't pretend it didn't happen. But the point is that that the fuel on the other, that the shadow side is I could be paralyzed by that as my life, and then the things happen in life and I don't. I'm a small town kid. There's no reason I should be even sitting here in California doing any of what I've done. I did a docu-series, I did Shakeology, I did all this shit, and I'm not even close to being done. So that I want ultimately not people to be afraid of life or be a victim to life, but actually let's reinvent what life could be. And so that's where I come from. So I love being able to see if we can scale this. And that's my next question for you. How do we make this really cool stuff that you and I and a few people can get access to, and hopefully that population, how do we scale that in a way that competes against this massive healthcare system? I mean, that to me would be my brother, my sister, my mom getting access to holism as a result of siloed, fractionized health.
You know how these things happen generally? It's first remember I told you that story about how the guy said, you're just a bunch of hippies and that's never going to amount to much. What ends up happening is when you create something that really is creating value for other people, it may start to grow slowly, but then word gets out and people begin, almost every brand that you can ever think of starts kind of slow, but then it explodes at some point because it's like its time has and it's so ideas, they go through good ideas go through certain stages. Darin, it goes something like this. That's a shitty idea. It's never going to work. Entrepreneurs hear this all the time because if it was a good idea, how come somebody's not already doing it? Right? And so first there's skepticism. And first they just ignore you. It's like, pay attention to that. It's not even worth thinking about. Then they're skeptical. Then the next phase is they start to argue against it, all the reasons why that's probably not going to work. And then they're sort of like, I guess, live and let live, different strokes for different folks. They sort of have that's not for me, but I guess I tolerate it. And then finally it takes off and people look back and say, well, that's obvious. Duh. Everybody knows that. Exactly. Only everybody didn't know that for a long time. What you're saying, you've just gotten further in your own consciousness. You can already see the duh. Of course that's the way it should be. Well, you're just ahead of your time. Every good entrepreneur is ahead of their time. Hopefully not so far ahead of your time that you're just seen as like a lunatic and you can't get any traction. But just far enough ahead of your time that you can create something that other people like, they get excited about. The early adopters take it, and then it grows, and then it reaches takeoff point. I mean, another example in our lifetimes, look how electrical vehicles, I mean, I remember, did you ever watch that movie, Who Killed the Electric Car?
Sure, of course.
It was kind of a conspiracy theory that the General Motors and those guys were shutting it down. And then Elon Musk comes along, or the pioneers that he worked with, the scientists that he worked with, the company that he ended up buying, if you know the whole story. And, he creates that first Model S. It's super expensive. He had early adopters take it. Who's going to pay $100,000 for a car? Some people did. And then my tech friends that bought it were saying, John, this is the most amazing car. You just got to drive it. It's so expensive. And where are you going to reach? So I was sort of like the skeptic. And he said, well, you just drive the damn thing. So, so I drove the car, and it's like, wow, you're right. So then, of course, I went out and bought a Tesla. And then, but I bought it early enough where now it's sort of, and if he hasn't completely killed his brand with this politics, the brand it just took off, right? Tesla became, at one time, Tesla was worth more than all the other public traded automobile companies in the world combined. So my point is, it went from zero to a lot, but it started slow and then it took off. So I think the change that you and I want to see in the world, I'm already telling you it's going to happen. It's going to happen in our lifetimes. And I've already given you some clue. AI is going to be transformative in it because that's going to help people. It's going to help empower people to make different changes in their lives. So I'm excited about it. I'm glad to be part of it. And you ask how it's going to happen. We don't have to necessarily know how it's going to happen because it's going to emerge. New entrepreneurs are going to do things you and I can't even think about. We're going to look at it and say, that's a terrific idea. I'm going to copy that. And then I'll innovate and iterate on that. And you make progress because entrepreneurs are in there copying each other, studying each other. Look how this AI now is making so much progress because, there's hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into it. And everybody and their brother's trying to get into it. And it's just accelerating at a rapid rate.
Every other person is working.
That's going to happen to holistic healthcare.
I mean, the biggest, just a caveat on the AI thing, its biggest challenge is a physical challenge because the power systems.
Electricity. The
electricity, the land, all of that stuff, the data centers, the store, that's its biggest.
I was reading how much electricity it takes if you just do a simple query to ChatGPT, and it's got a electrical trade-off.
Exactly. Big time.
Same thing with crypto, I might add.
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Exactly. So we're relying on those systems more and more and more, and yet our power grid in California isn't even close to being.
Well, that's on the California government.
Exactly. But without getting into the details, I can show you some videos after this podcast. I do know friends in the clean energy space that have made advancements in a way that I am confident will blow your mind after we're done.
Oh God, I look forward to seeing that. I could say I'm a believer in that nuclear power is. We were scared of it because of the radiation and plutonium and atomic bombs and whatnot, but that is a carbon-free energy source. We human beings are not going to stop using electricity.
Right.
They're not going to be satisfied with just wind and solar.
No.
I just think that I almost have a limitless belief in human creativity. Yeah. I think it's if we unleash it and let it experiment and it just keeps going faster and accelerating because of things like AI that can help. Think about people used to have supercomputers. Now, you have a little iPhone that's got the kind of power that you used to have in a supercomputer.
Yeah.
And so people are able to do things today they couldn't do in the past. And so we might say evolution's accelerating.
Yeah. It is an interesting thing. It's like these things are all in how you use them too, right? So, the internet has a very dark side of how people use it. AI can have a dark side, but for me, when I play with AI, it's it's a creative tool.
Sure.
Because I'll throw in some oh my God, okay, and then it's how you ask it, where you want to come out of it, and it opens up my field of possibilities.
Exactly.
Which is an amazing.
So it's you're into super life, so it's making you super smarter.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So what's the next steps with Love Life now? You have how many locations? Just the one?
We just have the one location.
Yeah.
Maybe I should talk about Love Life a little bit.
Yeah.
Love Life is our first location's here in El Segundo, south of the airport, beach cities near Manhattan Beach.
Yep.
It's a one-stop holistic health center. And it's big. It's an old Best Buy. It's located next to one of Whole Foods Market's most successful stores in Southern California. I know all Whole Foods' best locations. and it's got great visibility, good parking, good access. So you go into Love Life. The first thing you'll see is that we've got a healthy cafe, healthy food cafe. So food was where I got started, and I know it's still. Food is really one of the keys to longevity and wellness, and people underestimate its importance.
Yeah.
And then we have a big gather room, a community room where we have classes, we hold events, we have lectures, we have guest speakers.
Nice.
We may have live podcasts can be done there, and we'll have retreats that will be centered around that as well. Then you come in and you check in, and then like the cafe is open to the public. You don't need to be a member. But if you are a member, you get a 10% discount at the cafe. So you come in, and then we have a really nice fitness center, a gym, very technologically advanced fitness center like you might see at an Equinox or any of the really good, high-quality fitness centers. We're really trying to, from a healing wellness standpoint, we're trying to have all these different types of modalities. So we have a large room dedicated strictly to physical therapy. So the doctors can send patients over there to work with. We have really good physical therapists. So we have physical therapy. We have a yoga studio where we also do breath work. We have Pilates studio for Pilates. We do acupuncture. We have all kinds of different modalities that we can work with people, from traditional Chinese medicine to Reiki to almost anything you can imagine. We have a spa. So we have a very beautiful spa with great therapists there, again, doing a whole bunch of different kinds of treatments. We have 3 indoor pickleball courts. Nice. And we have a medical center. let me say we have a big recovery area where we're doing a lot of biohacking recovery type stuff. So we have cryotherapy, we have PIMF machines, we have hyperbaric oxygen chambers, red light therapy, we have 6 cold plunges, we have giant steam room, giant sauna, infrared sauna, lymphatic suits.
Amazing.
We're adding new technologies on. We're going to add this Evolve technology on that is a virtual, this will start in 2026, that's going to be a headset that you wear that also measures your brain waves, so it can help you learn how to go deeper in meditation into alpha, theta, and delta states. It's one that can get coherent, make your heart and brain coherent through training. Then we have the medical center. So we want to be your primary healthcare solution. This is different. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Right.
It starts out with people becoming medical members, end up, we do comprehensive testing. In order to get you healthier, we have to know your baseline. We have to know where you're at. And so that's through blood, that's through your gut, through gut tests. That's going to be through your oral health. We're going to do a DEXA scan. In some cases, we'll do MRIs if necessary. We've got and then we do all those testing. And then once we get the testing results, we'll have a doctor, a primary healthcare doctor. And we've got a whole medical team, a wellness team there, that's going to huddle together and work out sort of a plan for you, if you remember, Darin, a lifestyle plan, what supplements you might need, what you should change, dietary recommendations, exercise recommendations, and then we start to track you, and we track you via wearables like Apple Watch or Oura Ring, Garmin, continuous glucose monitor. If your blood sugar shows any irregularities, that can be a very useful tool. And then it's about watching you transform yourself over time. I was just meeting with the medical team just a few days ago, and we're just about to complete our first year, Darin, and they were telling me some of these stories of people that have transformed their health, that came in, and a year later if they were type 2 diabetics that no longer have to take any meds, they've lost a lot of weight in some cases, or they've just taken their wellness up to a higher level of vitality. And
it's all tracked.
It's all tracked.
It's not just an idea.
That's right. And we're documenting it. In fact, I was talking to the team. I said, we've got to get these stories out there to protect anonymity for the names, but we need to get the stories out there, and we need to tell the rest of our team here about how much success we're having, and we also need to begin to use it in our marketing.
Yeah. Because it's team building to your employees who are doing something good, but it's also a story that you need to let others know.
Let me tell you a story. So back in the days of Whole Foods, we were self-insured. Whole Foods is still self-insured. And so that means that we paid all the healthcare bills.
Wow.
And we had an administrator that paid the bills, but it was our money that was paying the bills. And they would come up with a network of doctors to work with. So like United Healthcare or Aetna could be two big providers that we've worked with over time. But what we discovered, Darin, is that 10% of our team members spent 90% of our healthcare dollars. So it's like, what's it about those 10%? Now, in some cases, it could be unexpected cancer, or somebody had a premature baby, or had a motorcycle accident. But in general, most of it was chronic diseases, obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease. I would argue cancer is mostly a lifestyle disease as well, and is one that if you may not absolutely be able to prevent it, you can lessen the risk of it tremendously through dietary and lifestyle changes. And so we began to invite those 10% to come into what we call a total health immersion, where we worked 4 times a year with different doctors in different parts of the country. Our team members would apply to come, and we took the ones that were in the 10%. And then we added their spouse to it as well if they wanted to have a spouse come. And what happened in a week, we took control of the food. We taught them the basics of healthy living, healthy lifestyle. even in 1 week, which doesn't seem very long, people can make tremendous progress.
Yeah.
We saw, in many cases, type 2 diabetics get off of their meds in just 7 days. We saw people that are obese could routinely lose 7 to 10 pounds in that week. Cholesterol would plummet 30 to 40 points. High blood pressure might plummet 30 to 40 points as well. It's just amazing. My last takeaway from that was a couple. One is the human body is actually incredibly resilient.
Yeah.
If you stop poisoning it, it begins to heal. Yeah. It's incredible. It's made to heal.
To do it.
It wants to heal. Yeah. Stop poisoning it.
Exactly.
And the second thing I learned is that even people that were healed, there was a high rate of recidivism once they got out of that healthy environment. Now, some people got the lessons and never looked back. I still would travel around to our stores and people would hug me and say, "You changed my life. Thank you so much for making this opportunity available to us." And others would apologize. It's like, I know what to do, but it's hard. It's really hard. Yeah. Food addictions, they don't say food addictions, but the food addictions are deep. It's hard. Yeah. And here's the most important thing. If you're not in a healthy community, it's very difficult. Let's say you were an alcoholic and we sent you to rehab for 90 days. You come back, you're sober, you don't crave alcohol. But if you go back to the same set of friends that what they'd like to do is go to the bars on Friday nights and go clubbing, you're probably not going to stay sober. Right. You need a new set of friends. You need a new community. Yeah. That's what we couldn't do at Whole Foods, that we can do at Love Life. We've created a community of people that want to be the healthiest version of themselves, and they're going to be around other people that are on similar journeys. Yeah. So there's that support group that's there, and hopefully they bring their whole family in, and they become members of Love Life, and then you can deal with the whole system. Remember how you were talking about systems before? Well, we have healthy lifestyle systems that are rooted in our families and our friends. So you want to change the system? Well, you have to change the system, not just the individual.
For sure. Yeah, and that's the key, man. And community, we know, is one of the most powerful tentacles for longevity and happiness.
We need to create healthy communities.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so you've created these proverbial 4 walls.
That's what I know how to do.
Yeah, and powerfully.
So hopefully we'll open these all around the country. That's the plan.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
What's the scaling opportunity?
So I think I mentioned previously that it took Whole Foods. It took us 14 years to get to 12 locations. So Love Life may be a little bit similar to that in the sense that finding locations is difficult. But first, we're not yet profitable. So we have about half the members we need right now to be profitable. But the big test is going to happen in the next few months is the first member's anniversary. Are they going to renew? Now, we think they are, but we won't know until they do. Sure. So if they renew and we continue to compound new members, then a year from now we should be probably profitable and maybe highly profitable.
How is the economics?
We're looking for a second location right now, and not in LA though. It'll be in Austin, where I live. Well, this is a long way for me to go to see my doctor.
Yeah, you should. And Austin's a receptive community.
Sure.
It's a great community.
It's got a lot of people from LA living there now.
Yeah, it does. There's an exodus for sure. What is there ever a world to which do you see an opportunity for insurance to play a part of this holism approach?
The answer is yes, of course. Answer is not yet is the true answer, because it's geared for an entirely different medical system where prevention is not really what it's about. Yeah. And it's been, we'll say it's been warped or corrupted a little bit as well. You have a system where it's a sick care system. It doesn't make any money if people are well. Right. As one of my holistic doctors once told me, he said, John, you know what the problem with my medical practice is? I said, what is that? He says, my patients all get well. Yeah. So they're well. They don't need that doctor any longer. Yeah. Our system is not really geared to getting you well. It's getting you on a lot of pharmaceutical drugs that have I mean, you see the TV commercials. It's like, ask your doctor, but then the side effects of this are terrible.
Is
right?
Death and
Yes,
psychosis.
This could be the psychosis or death. Ask your doctor. Like, we've bribed your doctor. Your doctor will say what we want him to say.
I mean, if we flip the whole thing in terms of subsidizing health and supporting the system and the doctors to be rewarded in some way for the health of their patient, how amazing would that be?
That would be amazing. I think that's what the new system will look like.
Yeah.
But it's the other system. You're not going to just tear it down. What's going to happen is you're going to have entrepreneurs. You're going to have new innovations that occur. Love Life, but thousands of other innovations as well, that will begin to change the old system until it's not even recognizable. Insurance is I'll say it's going to be one of the last dominoes to change. It'll follow because government is slow to react. So first you'll have entrepreneurs change things. Then people will start demanding it. Well, why? That's not fair. Why do these, rich people have this, and why doesn't everybody have this? And you'll have politicians getting up there and saying, I'm promising you that we're going to have, preventative holistic health care in your community, blah, 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 blah. And so that's how it'll change.
Yeah.
But the insurance will not be one of the first things to change. It'll be one of the last things to change.
For sure. They're a very old pillar in this whole system.
It's true.
For sure. John Mackey, you're awesome. I'm stoked I got to come visit. Love Life.
Hey, let me know when you're coming. I'll make sure you get the VIP tour.
Heyo. And I love it because in a building where you have medical facilities, biohacking, health, working out, all in the same place to create a culture, community, and you show it, and then the horses are out of the starting gate. So
once you create something that people really want, other people take note. I think half the people that visit us are people that are competitors in some way or another.
Right.
And that's okay because I want the ideas to spread. I want there to be Love Life knockoffs. That's how we're going to change the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, brother.
Okay. Thanks.
Appreciate it, man. Awesome. Dude.